All right. Hello, YouTube and potential viewers. This is Heath Wanamaker, aka Bruce Wayne. You check me out on the YouTubes at Gaming in Gotham at YouTube. So I was recently tagged in a video by Andrew Knapp regarding some questions being asked of GMs. And what their responses to those questions would be. So I'm going to give this a whirl, put my thoughts and opinions out there. This might be slightly rambly. I haven't prepped this. Most of it will just be, off the cuff. So your mileage may vary on some of my answers. Take it with a grain of salt. So the first question is, what do you call player agency? I think it's kind of really a matter of perspective. I think it's important, giving freedom of choice to the players, and having, those choices or actions have repercussions, in the world around them. Really having their choices shape and impact the environment or world, if their actions are on that, kind of a scale. So, giving them that kind of freedom, letting them help build the environment, build the world, as it were, through their course of actions, I think is important. I think that's, what I would, consider player agency. Now, I think, there has to be some give and take, though, at the same time. There's got to be a line in the sand. You can't go too absurd, off the wall, crazy with it. I mean, there has to be some kind of, understanding of how creative or just, wacky you can get with the player agency. But it's definitely something that should be allowed of your players. Since it's everybody telling a story. While the GM or DM may have written the story, that doesn't mean it's going to go as planned. So you should allow some freedom, for sure, of the players to build off of it, build off of what you got, make it perhaps better than what you had written down. So yeah, definitely give them the option to do that. Perhaps within some parameters, but don't take that away. Otherwise, it's just gonna be fucking robots. Like, woo, that was exciting. So, let's see here. Question 2. How does it feel to you when you have a bad session? I can't say I've had like a bad session per se. I've had some that were, not on par with others that I've ran or played in, and just definitely, didn't feel like it stacked up. Typically, I feel kind of disappointed, like. In hindsight, it's like, could have done this, could have done that, could have been so much better. Why didn't this happen? Why didn't I do that? And it's one of those things that it's, there's nothing you can do about it at this point, but you can use what you, gleaned from the bad session and build upon it and incorporate it, into future games. Learn from the mistakes that you've made, and give yourself, a better foundation for things to look look forward to in a game, things to strive for, and give your players the experience that they're looking for. And as a GM, give yourself the the game that you are striving for, that you want to run, that great epic game, whether it be a campaign, or a one shot, something memorable. So yeah, like I said, a bad session is usually just kind of disappointed, and might be one of those things too, where you kind of like point the finger, well, they did this, they did that, blah blah blah. But at the same time, you got to look and reflect on yourself when everybody else did as well. So just because you had a bad session per se, or you feel that you had, it doesn't necessarily, but it gives you something to look back, reflect on, and build upon and improve. So with that kind of motto, there's really no such thing as a bad session. It's just lessons learned. How do you handle bad players? What are some ways you would describe bad players? Oh man, bad players. Well, that's really a matter of perspective. Or you could lump them into some general terms such as a troll, disruptive, and and I'll come back to that in a second. That doesn't mean that they necessarily view themselves as such, or that every GM or player would view them as such. So that's something to bear in mind, when thinking of someone as a bad player. If it is an issue, with your group, or yourself, I mean, there's all kinds of ways to go about this. You could just, bring the hammer down, tell them to fucking kick bricks, or you could exercise a bit more tact. Maybe have a one-on-one with them, tell them, hey, what you're doing is not really jiving with me, or everybody. Can we work on this? See if we can, get you back on track with, where the rest of the players are going, where I'm going with this game. Because if you can't, unfortunately, you will be replaced. And if it doesn't work, I mean, do what you got to do, man. Don't sacrifice the fun of your players for one person. Don't sacrifice, the integrity of your story, in the world that you and the players are building on, because one guy wants to be an asshole. In the words of Spock, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So, if this guy is, just being a fun sucker and ruining the game for everyone, and, you tried to tell him or her, what the issue was, and they just didn't take it to heart, see ya. What do you consider bad players? What are some ways you describe a bad player? A bad player, I feel, comes in many shapes and sizes, all kinds of forms. It is an individual of many faces. And it all really also depends on the type of setting you're running, the type of game you're running. And the other individuals that you have in the party are going to, I think, play a big part in determining a bad player. But some basic guidelines would be someone who is blatantly disruptive to the game. That could be something, as simple and common as always talking over everybody else. He or she needs to be heard above everybody else for whatever reasons. And that's not fair to you, and that's not fair to everybody else. Quite frankly, it's fucking rude. Someone, in the same vein of disruption, someone who is always going against the grain. The whole party is on board with this idea. They want to go do this. And this person just wants to go off in left field and do their own thing. While that's not always a bad thing, I feel, and can offer, some tension and open up some new avenues for, the story to progress, when it's a consistent game to game thing and it's getting to the point of just annoying, and feels, like it's clearly not going to change, and something that this person is going to continue to do despite, numerous objections. That's an issue. You're getting in the way of what everybody else wants to do on a consistent basis. That's a problem. Then you got your trolls, just all around chuckle fucking everything into submission. While some games, that's great, that's what we're looking for everything. That's not necessarily the case. And that could also be another example of a bad player. So it's just people that are not on board with what the story's about, where it's going, what all the other player characters are looking to do, and is to some degree consistently disruptive at every single turn. Something else that bugs me is a player who just consistently, questions every single fucking thing. Like, dude, shut your fucking mouth and just go with the story. You don't need to know why it is what it is. You don't need to know why this is here. Quite frankly, you don't need to know anything other than you have a skill test that you can choose to do or not do. You can deal with the number that you think is unfair or move along and ignore that part of the potential hook or story. Like, you got the players that be willing to buy in, and they got to be on board, with what's going on. So that's another thing that just bugs me. Like, it is what it is. You don't know why it is. You don't need to know why it is. Just do it. There very well could be, and I would assume, a reason behind the madness. So yeah. Like I said, bad players are all kinds of shapes and sizes, but like the most common type is just blatantly disruptive, poking holes in your game and ruining the fun of the party, which is something that you shouldn't have to deal with. And if they want to, in my opinion, if they want to continue to play games, something that they should stop doing. What is a good player in your opinion? What is something a good player would do? So, just let's go bizarro world on the question. I feel a good player is someone who is on board with the story. A good player is someone who is jiving, with the group. They're willing to, go along with what everybody's doing. They're enjoying themselves. Everybody's getting along. They're not questioning, the other players and the GM at every turn. They kind of just have an understanding that this is the game. While I may not agree with some of the things It is what it is. It was there. Whether if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone else who might have had to deal with this, and just go with it. Everybody's having fun. Um, they're willing to compromise. On some of their ideas or approaches to something. But I mean, ultimately, like the biggest takeaway from that is someone who is like I said, on board with the game. They're going to play the game, for the enjoyment, and they're going to give everybody their chance to talk. They're not going to hog the spotlight. They're going to share ideas and not try to be heavy-handed about everything that they think they want to do. And they're not going to constantly question and pick at the GM because they disagree with, how this turned out, or the difficulty level of a task, or yada, yada, yada. What is something a good player would do? A good player would be someone who is willing, I think, like I said, to get along with everybody. They're willing to, be excited about the game, bring energy, which in turn will likely rub off and affect everybody else, get them excited about the game, bring out their energy. A good player is someone who is willing to sacrifice, some of their ideas, both, in or out of character, for the good of the party, the good of the game. So everybody's having fun. They're not going to, try to take over and dominate every aspect of the game, because they, have that understanding that, ultimately it is a team game. It is about people, doing something together. While it doesn't always have to be, Simon Says, it's definitely, good to have some player conflict in there, and I think maybe at times a good player would be the person who decides that they want to just go left and everybody else wants to go right. And not necessarily for selfish reasons, but because, it'll be fun. Let's see what happens. What trouble does so-and-so possibly get into or find himself in? Or say, Party A finds himself in, and, now it's become like a reconnaissance rescue mission. Something that might not have otherwise happened, and add some tension and fun stuff to the story. So being able to like take the initiative on things like that to enhance the story, I think is something else, a trademark that you might find in a good player. But again, that's all perspective. Maybe everything that this good players go on, someone else thinks is shit. How do you handle splitting up a group if you do, and why? Why not? Why not? That's something that kind of bugs the shit out of me. And I'll tell you why. There's like that dumbass meme, don't split the party, or you split the party. Shut your mouth. I'm going to split your lip. Like, there's no rule that says I can't do it. There's no cardinal sin, against splitting the party. I just think people are paranoid and feel like there's safety in numbers. And it's not this just, unfathomable task that everybody makes it out to be. It's relatively simple. You would treat it like you would any other whole party. Everybody gets a turn. While this is going over in Party A, all right, they've been at it for 2-3 minutes. They've had, a couple rounds of combat, some interactions, and you can, frame over to Party B. And Andrew Knapp said it, you can, creatively switch frames. He mentioned like the hammer coming down on someone's head in Party A, and they see like a crushed melon, in party B. Maybe, you see some guy, in a fist fight and take a guy's arm and like do like, he grabs and does like a judo throw over his shoulder in party A, and then in party B, they are in a tavern and there's some guys arm wrestling and one dude's just getting worked. So you can cut back and forth between the parties rather fluidly. And while it's not something that you're, probably going to excel at straight away, it might seem like an ominous task. It's definitely something that is doable. I've done it a lot in past games, quite successfully, if I do say so myself. And it comes with practice, and it's nice too because when you split the party, it helps build tension and add some more to the story. Like, so and so comes back huffing and puffing about what's been going on down the hallway, and then this dude's like, oh yeah, well, I've got a story for you while you were down in the hallway dealing with Joe fucking Schmo over here, and that can build up the story even more. I mean, if you're going to split the party, it should, and should offer unique experiences for both parts. And I believe, if not, say why. I do. So, next question. What do you prefer more? Interaction, role play, combat, puzzles, or a mix? I like all of it. So a mix. While I have a preference, I enjoy puzzles. I think puzzles are fantastic. It's a fun, creative way to get your players to think outside the box to solve a problem. And it's also another way of getting your players to feel threatened or helpless, depending on, what the situation, the emotion that you're going for, in a given circumstance, without having, a 12-foot tall ogre breathing down their neck, like in combat. A puzzle can be just as daunting as the hardiest of foes, because unless you can overcome this mental obstacle, you fail. You fail. Like, this puzzle doesn't have hit points. It can't be defeated, by luring it into a cavern or some other clever solution. It's in the way. You have to figure out how to get it out of the way. And, this plus 12 Vorpal Sword or, Master Blaster 2000 laser cannon probably isn't going to help you. And yeah, so I think they can be a lot of fun. And sometimes there is, it's very rewarding to complete a puzzle, finally, overcome that battle of wits, something that, you won't find on the battlefield. Or necessarily in, player interaction, though the battle of wits, the verbal, riposting can certainly take place. But yeah, and sometimes, it's also like it doesn't have to be an elaborate death trap. It could just be something simple as fitting the shapes in the holes, but one shape just doesn't align at all, and figuring out what the hell you need to do with this. Where is the other shape? Why is this here? Maybe the one shape that doesn't align, can be manipulated in such a way to make it fit, but it's not, not something obvious, like an optical illusion kind of thing, things like that. So yeah, I said that's my preference. I do enjoy a good puzzle, though I like all of it. Good combat is invigorating. some good, intrigue and conversation is also fantastic. That helps develop, the background of, characters, gives you ideas of, the inner workings, of the minds, who they are, where they come from, why they might think this, and, the same goes for the people they're talking to. So I think it would be a good thing to incorporate all of that, in a game to some degree. Let's see here. Next question. Do you tinker with the rule set you use or use it as written, and why? So I like to think of the rules as little more than a guideline. While some people are avid rules lawyers and think these, things are set in stone and can't be changed, and quite frankly, they piss me off. They're wrong. They are wrong. The rules just sometimes have to be changed for situations. I mean, there really is no God tier ultimate system out there that does everything or does it right, does everything right. If it does claim to do everything, it doesn't mean that, it's the most tactful approach to doing it. It can be quite clunky in certain areas, and that's not something that I care for. So I think sometimes you just have to, manipulate the rules, do some house rules in order to get the desired effect. I think anybody that says the rules are fine for everything is one of two things: a liar, or hasn't encountered the situation where it doesn't work yet. And if to say otherwise, you're probably a liar, and I don't even want to talk to you anymore. I mean, I'll just tell it like it is, man. Like I've played quite a few different systems now. I mean, I'm not going to say I've played dozens upon dozens of different systems, but I have played quite a few, and they don't all do everything. They don't. I've played a lot of D&D. I've played 3.5. I've played 4.0. I've played 5th edition. And if you wanted to use D&D to have to play Twisted Metal in your game, to get in custom made combat cars, you're going to have to do some house ruling. You just did. If you wanted to use aspects from Fate or something like that in a game that doesn't have them, as a mechanic, you have to house rule. You have to come up with that rule. So while there is a system out there for everything, there isn't a system that does everything. So yeah, I definitely have been known and will tinker with the rule sets, to incorporate areas, if need be, that they haven't covered. If it's something that I want to put in my game and the rules don't, give me an idea of how to do it, I'll play with them. And I think that goes for any system. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Like I said, it can add a lot to a game and give you more options that may not have been there before. And it's something that you would probably want to discuss with your players ahead of time, just so they're aware, so you don't blindside them, and then you have to deal with the bitching and the whining that may come along with it. And if there's a rules lawyer in your party, whatever God you believe in, I hope he helps you. You're going to need it. Next question. Do you mind running NPCs with a group of player characters. Uh, yes and no. Do I mind running NPCs with the group, as in I take up the role of a character in the party? Yeah, I do, because that's one other thing that I have to worry about. And that NPC kind of has an unfair-esque advantage, maybe, because I know what's going to happen. I mean, you should be able to separate that, from the NPC. If you are running an NPC that is a staple in the party. But regardless, it's a distraction. It's not something you should have to do. I have done it once. While it was at the time fun, reflecting back on it, I don't feel like I should have. There's a few reasons why. Depending on the role of the NPC, the players can become too reliant on them in a situation, and quite frankly, that's a problem. If they absolutely depend on this guy in every combat situation, just master blast, whatever they're up against, because at one point in time he did, or however he's made that he's capable of it, that's taking away from them. That's taking away from, the combat for the players, and overall the story, them overcoming the obstacles. It's like just sitting back, and having someone else do all the work for you, and you're just kind of, riding their coattails. Doesn't sound that fun to me. Like, the whole point of me playing a role-playing game is to play, to face adversity and overcome it in whatever form it may take. So yeah, I don't like doing it anymore. The no part comes in. In the sense that some NPCs, if not, when not being played as part of the party or being enabled as a crutch, I think are memorable aspects of the game. There's a jester that is wandering around the countryside, and he ends up in, similar locations, on a few occasions as the players. And he's just super flamboyant, juggling, swords through town, breathing fire, and, maybe he has, some plot hooks to offer the players. That's a fun NPC. When you see this crowd gathered around and swords flying through the air, after a few times of bumping this guy, like, that's who that is. If he doesn't have anything for you, at the very least, it's going to be an entertaining show. And, it just creates a character that, the players enjoy bumping into from time to time. You take them away for a while, a couple sessions go by, and then, they wander into the town and they see that familiar sight and their eyes just light up. They're like, yeah, it's fucking, Nestor, the jester, yeah. And, he just got back from whatever, and he's got a new plot hook for the players. And, maybe he seems to consistently offer an almost comical type of plot hook or something. That makes, memorable NPCs. So incorporating them into the game like that, I think, is a tasteful way to do it if you're going to. Give them personality. But don't let them be necessarily a consistent member of the party, because then they can become a crutch where the NPCs always look to them for answers to their problems, when in fact it should be them solving problems. All right, who we got for another question here? What's next? All right, so thoughts on campaigns versus one-shots. Do you prefer one over the other? I like them both. I think they both certainly have their merits. a campaign is one of those large, I feel, one of those large scale, epic adventures in whatever form it may take, heavy political intrigue, a big war going on, finding your way, through the Temple of Doom, having to overcome and solve all these puzzles, is, one of those build-ups to the ultimate conclusion, just getting that, that moment, that satisfaction of everything that you've been striving towards, all these obstacles and adversities you've had to push through and overcome, has finally reached its monumental conclusion, and you just feel really accomplished. You were in this for the long haul, and man, was it worth it. Whereas one-shots, I really like them because they offer you the opportunity, to be an outlet for all those ideas, that you've had, swimming around in your noodle. You wake up one morning, get your coffee, and you're sitting there, you're like, it'd be fucking badass playing a group of Kung Fu coffee, like Starbucks, employees, and Starbucks is under, attack by, the cocoa industry. Be entertaining, let's do it. And you just run a one-shot with that, or, oh man, let's play, some sci-fi gunslingers, having dogfights and starships. You can run a one-shot for that. You don't have to turn it into a campaign. You can take, 3-4 hours and make an entertaining adventure for all these ideas that you've had, and, let it be a creative outlet. And get other people in on it, be like, hey man, I just had this fucking idea. Are you down? Let's do it. Starbucks Kung Fu Masters versus the cocoa industry. So yeah, like I said, they both have their merits, and that's kind of how I see them. A campaign is definitely more of a commitment, and one shots can just be, sporadic fun games based around an idea you had. And you just don't have time to make a campaign out of it, but still want to play it. So do them both, man. Do them both. How much fantasy versus realism do you apply in your games? Well, that depends on the game I'm trying to run, I guess. If it's Dungeons and Dragons, high fantasy or Star Wars, et cetera, superheroes, there's probably going to be a lot of blatant fantasy slapping you in the face. That's something you should just expect. If we're playing, some cops on the beat, and the triads moved into town and are abducting people, and we're the only ones on the scene, and we get mixed up in this, blah blah blah. It's going to probably be pretty heavily based in reality, common time capabilities. So I think ultimately that just depends on what you're trying to do. By all means, mix them both together. Yeah, I think that's about the best answer to that. It just depends on the type of game you're trying to run, and on how much of one or the other you're going to mix into it. And to be honest, let's face it, most people don't play tabletop RPG games to play a lawyer, defending someone in the court of law. But if I was a space lawyer, pistol-toting badass, who's judge, jury, and executioner, that I might be on board for. Do you prefer running modules, hacking modules, or running your own story? I have probably never ran a module verbatim. While I will certainly use them for inspiration and hack them, I've just never ran one straight from the book, and that's for a couple reasons. One, the book just feels an awful lot like a script. It's kind of what it is, and we can pretty well count on them not following script. So running it directly from the book, unless you're really, pushing them towards, in that direction, it just won't happen. So you probably, now I'm not going to say this, for everybody, but you probably had to do some improvisation. And I've never ran a module strictly by the book because people, have free will and will use that. I would definitely hack them. I might like, some of the ideas that I'm seeing, in a module, like, oh, that's pretty cool, that's clever. But what if, and go from there, and use it for, inspiration, modify it to, maybe something more to your liking, something that the party might enjoy more, if you're, more familiar with their tastes. And I really like running my own stories as well. I used to be an avid reader. I would devour, a book, every day. And, this just continued to spark my imagination and give me ideas for my own stories. So, having a creative outlet to let those stories and ideas play out, phenomenal. Absolutely. Make up your own stories, use your own ideas. Don't be afraid to take, inspiration from all kinds of stuff, including modules. And if you are going to try to run a module, bear in mind that it likely will not go exactly as planned in the module. So be ready to improvise. Yeah, I just so yeah. I prefer hacking modules and running my own stories over trying to get everybody to follow the script, which will probably never happen. What game system has gotten you the best results? Results as in, I'm just gonna assume that the question is talking about results as in enjoyment, player enthusiasm, etc. So far, I've had good results, with 3.5. I've had good results, I guess, with 4th edition for a while, anyways. Personally, I just got bored of it. I've had good results with 5th edition, though I guess the system of late that I've just delved headfirst into and I've fell in love with, and I feel I have gotten a lot of good results out of it, from my perspective. I enjoy running the system. I look forward to running the system. I have all kinds of ideas for it. Players are enthusiastic and excited about the system and want to play it. Is the Cyber system, which is the system used in Numenera and The Strange, created by Monty Cook, and there will be a standalone generic, version of the Cyber system due to release in August. So hashtag hype. It's just, I think it's very simplistic. It's not overly crunchy, and and it offers a lot of room for interpretation and freedom of some of the rules, because it's relatively rules light to the point that some are just not there. Like, there are no grappling rules in Numenera. I had to homebrew grappling rules, which is effective. I like what I got. Yeah, it's just I've had a ton of fun with the system. It's very streamlined, I feel, in a lot of aspects, adaptable to damn near any type of game style you want to run. Pretty simple to pick up. I think building a character is just a blast. I'm an adjective noun who verbs. Think about that. And the players who have got to partake in some of my Numenera / Strange games have really had fun and have come back for more. And that's what I like. When they are enjoying themselves with the system used in the story that I have laid out. That always makes you feel pretty good. And when they come back for more, I mean, it's a pretty gratifying feeling. So that would be my go-to system right now, for a multitude of reasons I won't get into right now, since that is not the purpose of this video response. But if you haven't tried it, I recommend checking it out. Stay tuned for some of my games. Hop in. If you like it, you like it. If not, I mean, it's not for everyone. But at least you tried. What method has gotten you the best results? Explain. How about you explain to me what you mean by what method has gotten you the best results? That is vague as shit. Well, if I'm going to interpret the question, I'm going to assume that it's asking gaming tactics, methods for incorporating and immersing the players, I guess. I think using, some storyteller narratives, as if you were reading, from a book. When you read from a book and, it's enjoyable, does it not immerse you? I would hope so. If not, just close the damn thing and put it back on the shelf and don't suffer through what you're not enjoying. But yeah, that storyteller, that storyteller kind of like narrative, giving, good descriptions on, what they see, what they smell, what they taste, what they hear, what they feel, can really help pull someone into the world. Some vivid images of perhaps the people, like what they're wearing, if it's really flamboyant. Maybe this particular gentleman is rather jovial, and has a rosy nose, and some bitch looks like Santa in a swashbuckler's outfit. But I mean, you can add a little more tact than just that. But have this image and tell them, what they see. Really try and paint pictures for them. But don't get too carried away. Leave some room for them to interact. This goes back to player agency. Leave some room for them to interact, and add a little bit of their own pizzazz to this picture that everybody is painting as a whole. Lay the foundation, and then let them build on it. But good description, some cinematic, cuts and stuff, making things real cinematic can be fun, and yield some good results, in certain situations. Like if it's a real high octane, chase or something, really get into talking about, the smell of burning rubber, the roar of the V8, the piston smacking, the seat that you're sitting in is just rumbling, and um, some cinematic cuts, or something like, you're laying on the bed, and you're looking up. It's a pretty sparsely furnished room. You have a nightstand, a lamp, small 12-inch black and white TV. It's hot, and the fan's spinning around you. When you're staring at this fan just spinning and spinning, the camera kind of pans in on this fan. You can hear like the fan blades, and then the next thing you know, you see a helicopter. Its rotor is buzzing, soaring through the air, and you're back in Nam. So that's like one method to use, a cinematic cut, and if done right, that is also effective. I think when you throw all three of those together, in a pot of stew of just our peak goodness, and let it simmer on low for about an hour or two, you'll really come out with some good stuff, some good tactics to use to great effect to draw your players into a scene at any given time. So yeah, those are three things that I will do in various situations, and have worked well. Yeah, I've gotten positive responses from the players, and it takes practice. I'm not going to say I'm a master at it. I'm certainly competent, but it takes practice, and so do that. Just find something that works and build on it, and those would be what have probably worked best for me. What got you into running these kinds of games? They made me. The sons of bitches made me because they wanted to play. It was oh damn, 10. Been playing about 10 years, like 16, 17, and we were all sitting around one day, me and a couple of buddies, and D&D got mentioned, role-playing games that we ever played, and we're like, no, let's heard about it, and we all started talking, showed interest, kind of went from there. They all kind of looked to me, since they were well aware, that I was an avid reader, to run a game for them. You read all these books, man, you'll be good at it. Whatever, I guess. So my buddy, who was going to school at the time, he comes back one day, and he's just got like this big ass binder. He went and printed out on one side, mind you, he didn't even double print the damn paper. It was like all the 3.5 players handbook, like all three monster manuals, and so we just had like these ghetto as shit big ass binders with like black and gray printed single-sided pages. That was our material. See, we started with 3.5, and that went on for some time. I ran I think the game lasted, 8 months to a year before, I would take an occasional break here and there, but it was pretty consistent for us. I'm like, look, man, we're drawing too close, and I want to play now, and it's pretty obvious to me anyways that you guys are wanting to do something new. So let's do that. One of those new things, including me sitting on that side of the screen. So that's how I started running games. It was really necessity, and I was kind of forced into the position. And then I was a player for a long time, and I'm going to be honest. I thought the game was shit. I didn't have a lot of fun. I shouldn't say I didn't have a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs and good times, but the games just, I didn't feel like the story was all there. A lot of time where it was super combat heavy when I wanted to have some political intrigue, and and things of the sort. And eventually, the rest of the party was feeling the same way. And I just said, hey man, if I want to run, if I want to play or I guess do games that I'm going to enjoy, I'm just going to have to go back to running. So yeah, then I got back in the hot seat. Started running games again. And it's pretty much the rest is history. The home group fell apart. After many, many years, everybody went their separate ways. Or just time constraints, everybody being adults now, having kids, full-time job, just time constraints. And then, I stumbled across the one-shot group and played. My first game was one of Lloyd Collins' games. I think that was the first time we met at one of his Viking games, and I had a blast in it. Odin rest the souls of those like 6 schmucks who I got to fling oil from the catapult only to have it backfire and land all over themselves and burn them to death. They will be remembered in the halls of Asgard. And then, I played, I just continued to play in a lot of games. I know I partook in a lot of Lloyd's games for a while. Andrew Knapp's games, some of Ian Christensen's, and after a while, finally decided, while I'm having a lot of fun playing all these games, none of them are quite incorporating some of the ideas that I have, or something that I just, something I just want to run or, play in. I'll get enjoyment either way, as long as it's like this idea that I have for a game, and decided I'm going to start running games more in the groups, kind of give back to the community. So here we are today, and I also, happen to come across a system I like. And that's another thing, too. It's a lot easier to try new systems instead of being stuck in the same old rut if you just run them. Take the time to get the material, read it, and learn it. If you like it, run some games. So that's another reason how I kind of migrated towards running these kinds of games. Something that would have never happened in my home group, most likely. They were pretty stuck in the roots of D&D. I'm like, hey man, let's try Fate. Let's try, D20 Modern. Oh no, man, we're doing this thing. And like, whatever. So, yeah, mostly necessity and just desire to do what I enjoy. So I think that's all the questions so far. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So anybody who watches this, hopefully some of this information has some form of meaning to you. You find it helpful. Again, this is just pretty much off the cuff, what come to mind. So it might have seemed a little rambly. Probably should have. I'm just running with my thoughts. So why don't, some of you tell me what you think? Drop some comments below. And, let me know your opinions on some of this stuff. So again, I was tagged by Andrew Knapp, so I suppose I would tag someone else. Let's see, David Friend. I think I'm saying your last name right, from Nerdarchy. Yeah, let's hear what you got to say. I would thoroughly enjoy picking your brain and seeing what your thoughts and opinions on some of these questions. Let's go with Robert Ogre. I don't know if he's been tagged in or not, but Robert, I also want to hear what you had to say. We'll put you in the hot seat too. And how about Sean Vigvari? I'm kind of curious to hear what you had to say, Sean. Lord knows that you will talk and tell us. So let's hear it. That'll be it for me. Yeah, so this has been Heath Wanamaker, aka Bruce Wayne, at Gaming in Gotham on YouTube. Come and play in some of my games and check out the One Shot Group in RPG W3. Goodbye.